Charley Casserly does a great job with the NFL Network Analyst. You can follow him on Twitter at Charley Casserly. Don't forget, by the way, the NFL Network provides live coverage of the 2018 NFL Draft from Dallas Thursday to Saturday. Fox is going to air NFL Network's coverage of rounds 1 and 3. Charley's kind enough to join me on a Tuesday on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Charley, good to talk to you again, my friend. How you been?
Very good. Good to be with you now.
Appreciate a couple moments. And, it's funny. I was just talking about this during the opening monologue. It seems as though this year you get the sense that the first 10 selections, I mean, it just could be absolutely chaos on Thursday night with the draft. Do you believe it'll go status quo where Cleveland's definitely taking a quarterback? The Giants are probably going to go with Barkley if he's there. The Jets are going to go with a quarterback at 3. I mean, do you think it's going to be the way we believe it's going to be, or can we see a little bit of chaos and some trades and some surprises?
I think with the first 3 picks, you will see a quarterback at 1 and a quarterback at 3. But the big wild card is who they take at 1.
Right.
If they take Josh Allen, I think the Giants may take Darnold. All of a sudden, the Jets take a quarterback. Then Barkley is sitting there at 4, so they get Barkley at 4, meaning Cleveland.
Yeah, right.
So that's one scenario. Another scenario is you take Darnold, then Barkley goes at 2, Jets take a quarterback at 4, Cleveland may take Chubb or some other player or trade the pick. So that's kind of the scenario. The thing is, we just don't know who Cleveland is taking at 1.
Right.
Then you go into 5 through 10. There's a wild card. I think people have players like Fitzpatrick and Micah Fitzpatrick at safety and Derwin James at safety. They've got different players in there. Davenport's a possibility that could go. Tremaine Edmonds could go in there. So there's some possibilities of different players that can go. Exactly the order, no one's sure. Quentin Nelson's going to eat up a spot at some point in that first 10 players.
It's funny because, and you brought up a really interesting point. You go by the premise that you believe Cleveland's going to go with Darnold at number 1, and then Barkley's right there too. I still don't discount Chubb going to the Giants as well, and I understand the whole switch with the defensive alignment, 4-3 and 3-4 and whatnot. I do believe no matter what, the Jets are getting a quarterback. If Rosen's there, he's there. My question to you is, being in the NFL, being a GM for 20-something plus years, especially with the Skins, I mentioned this the other day. Last year was a perfect example of a team and a GM that just was strongly in love with their own convictions. They believed in their convictions, and they went with the guy they wanted, and that was the Bears when they made the move to trade with San Francisco for Trubisky. Is it tough in this spot where if you're a GM, how do you block out that outside noise? And then, the difference makers, the guys that turn around and if they truly believe with in their heart of hearts, this is who they want. How do you block out that outside noise and you don't even read the press clippings and you draft the guy that you want? Because, again, you don't know what Trubisky's going to be, and we've seen more bust at the quarterback position than more hits.
Okay, having been on both sides of this, there's 2 worlds right now. There's the world we're in, you and me, and then there's the world that Dave Gettleman's in. It's 2 different worlds. Okay, completely. And everybody on this side is 2 things. Either you know the players and you have an opinion,
right?
Which I have an opinion. Darnold's number 1 to me, a quarterback. Or you're listening to all of this noise and you're part of the noise, okay? The teams are totally separate. The best information you get on the draft is this week. This is when you start to get to see some things and hear some things that make some sense. Now, it's hard, we don't know which ones to believe, but we're getting better information, okay? So that's good or bad, but you got 2 worlds. To answer your question about blocking the noise, we took Mario Williams, which is the most controversial first pick in the draft that I can ever remember, okay? And we took him. And when you're working, you don't listen to talk radio. You're working. You don't see television unless you turn the television on because you're working. The clips, I read the clips of every newspaper in the in an NFL city every day. We got a clipping service, and I'd scan them. And you'd pick out things that might make sense to you to help you. But you never paid any attention to editorial opinions. You just forget them. Okay?
Right.
So my point is, like with Mario Williams, I might have heard 1% of what was ever said on the outside. You look at the film, you talk to your people, you make a decision within a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
If you get involved in all that, okay, it's a distraction. And you can't do that. Just trust the process, trust your work, what you're doing, and move on. I did, the week of the draft, talked to two writers who I felt could give me inside information what their teams were doing that helped me strategize on trades and maneuvering in the draft. That's how I used it.
Okay.
So.
All right. And you took Williams 2006 with the Texans. And you had a lot of gems, too, in later rounds when you were with the Skins. All right. So you believe Darnold, he's going number one.
I don't know he's going number one.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you believe he's the best quarterback coming? Do you believe he's the most pro-ready? And I should let me rephrase that. Okay.
Well, he's the number one rated quarterback.
Okay.
So I would take him.
How about the Jets at 3? You think Rosen's the best fit?
Oh God, I don't know. That is the most fascinating and toughest pick in the entire draft by far. There's nothing close to it, because if Darnold fell to you, you'd celebrate. But I don't see how Darnold gets past the Giants if Cleveland doesn't take him. Okay, so you need a quarterback, and everybody else has got an issue, and I have no idea what to do in that one. Because all I can do is look at the tape. Rosen is clearly good enough to be the first pick in the draft. He's as good as Matt Stafford. He's as good as Sam Bradford when they were the first pick. Okay? Both have been to Pro Bowls. He's that good. Does the personality match? That's something the Jets have to decide. Mayfield is farther away, but I like him. I think he can do it, but there's a personality thing that you got to deal with there. Allen, to me, is fourth because of accuracy and decision-making. Can he get better at those things? Maybe. He's not ready to play now. That's fine. He's not going to play the guy anyway right now. So that's how I see him. The Jets have the toughest pick in the draft by far. Nothing's close to it.
Is there any chance the Giants, because of all the talk, and we just talked about it for a couple moments, when you have Shermer come out and get him in, they watch the film on Eli, if they believe he's got a couple more years left, they've tried to solidify the offensive line with some moves during the offseason. They don't know what they're going to do with Flowers as well. Barkley, you got a quote-unquote, as many have said, a transcendent player for the next 10 years, which can extend the career of Eli maybe a couple more years. But to me, it's tough because at the end of the day, you got to pay Eli. You got to turn around. You're going to want to pay Odell. You got to pay Landon Collins. So I'm more inclined to think if they draft a quarterback at 2, that makes me believe a little more that Odell will be around for a long time. My point is, if Barkley's right there at 2, because we believe Cleveland's going with a quarterback, do you pass up on a player like this? I mean, is this a player where, man, you're going to be scratching your head? How can you pass up on him?
If you have a conviction on the quarterback, you take the quarterback. If you don't have a conviction on the quarterback, you take Barkley.
Okay.
Barkley's on a wage scale for the next 4 years, so his salary is not going to affect anything you do.
End of the day with the Eagles, they pick a 32, obviously, defending Super Bowl champs. I mean, I can see a scenario where they don't have a ton of picks, by the way, and you already know that. They don't have a pick in rounds 2 or 3. 6 picks overall. Can you see Howie, the way they maneuver, making a trade, trying to get out of there? And then I was thinking maybe Cleveland, and then ultimately Cleveland at 32. They do get their running back, but what about the position of need for the Philadelphia Eagles? Is it running back? Is it tackle? Linebacker depth, because you can't always rely on Hicks? Where do you see the Eagles going?
It's a hard question to answer because obviously I've thought about it doing mock drafts because on the surface, I mean, it is a very good football team. There's no apparent weakness, and I say that with a question mark because you can't help but look at how the Patriots carved up that secondary.
True.
They've got a lot of young corners. I like Sidney Jones. He didn't play last year because of the injury, but I like him a lot. You may have a lot of backup corners playing for you at the end of the day. I know they like them and they think they're going to get better, but if you could get a real good corner, I wouldn't pass up a corner here. That to me is a position of need. Running back, yes, that's a position of need too, and you'll have a better player, maybe a running back than corner there. I'm sure Howie will look to trade back and maneuver and pick up some picks, but if there's a guy there that they have a hard conviction on, I don't know why they would pass him to pick an extra 3rd or 4th round pick.
Do you think teams are going to trade up for guys like Jackson and Mason Rudolph, Lamar Jackson and Mason Rudolph?
I'd be surprised in the first round if that happens with Jackson. With Rudolph, if a team like Pittsburgh, throwing it out, takes him at the end of the first round, okay. I don't think they will. I think this is more second-round action.
And lastly, before I let you get out of here, you mentioned some of the quarterbacks. I think I don't know. It's just my opinion. I'm not enamored with this class. I'm not saying they're not talented. I guess maybe I look at that 2004 class. I like to kind of revert back to that, which is a rarity because you have 3 potential Hall of Famers. Out of these quarterbacks that we talked about, there's going to be a very good one. There's going to be one that maybe is a Hall of Famer down the road, or at least perennial All-Pro, and then there's going to be that bust. I mean, is that kind of how you feel with these quarterbacks, where you're going to get a good one, a very good one, maybe 1 or 2 that doesn't pan out, and then maybe a guy that hangs around for 10 years?
Well, percentages say that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And, when Eli is coming out of college is better than any quarterback in this draft. Okay, so that is to put it in perspective there. You can't compare. This class doesn't compare to anybody, in my opinion, because I think every one of them has a chance to do it. Everyone has an element of bust in them. Even Arnold, turnovers.
Right.
A lot of turnovers with him. The weakest arm of the 4 guys. Okay, so he has some holes too. And you just have teams that are going to need quarterbacks that are going to take them, and it's a little bit of a hope. So I think it's unfair on the Jets to say this is the biggest decision they have to make and they got to get it right. Well, they can only pick who's there.
That's true.
And everyone will say in sentence 1, this is a flawed group. In sentence 2, he's got to get it right. Well, good luck.
Yeah, it's rocking a hard place. No, you're absolutely right with that. Sometimes, I don't know if it's envious position. So, all right, Charlie, listen, great stuff. Always appreciate it. Look forward to catching on the NFL Network, and appreciate a couple moments on Tuesday. Thanks, pal.
Sure. All right. See ya. Bye.
You got it. Be well. Charley Casserly from the NFL Network. Follow him on Twitter at Charley Casserly as well. Don't forget, NFL Network provides live coverage. 2018 NFL Draft from Dallas, Thursday to Saturday. Fox will air NFL Network coverage of rounds 1 and 3.